بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم. So inshallah we'll be moving on to the nawasib, those particles which make the fi'l mudari mansoob. So if you look here, we've finished the discussion regarding the types of i'rab and the ma'nawi amal tajarruduhu an nawasib wal jawazim. Now we are here, we're discussing which particles cause the fi'l mudari to be in the mansoob state. This is a very important lesson. Okay, so he says, first of all, faslun al-mansubu amiluhu khamsatu ahrufin. He says that the amil are 5 particles. Usually the books mention 4, and you see why he mentions 5. He says al-mansubu amiluhu khamsatu ahrufin. The particles which make the following fi'lul mudari mansoob are of 4 types, and he labels them here an, lan, kai, and idhan. And those are the 4. And then he says wa an anil muqaddara, an, which is muqaddar. So in theory there's no need to make it 5, it's really 4, and then an can be zahira and muqaddara. So this is one of his shuzuz where he makes an muqaddara separate, a 5th type, whilst in reality there are 4. And does amal zahiran wa mudmaratan, zahiratan wa mudmaratan, but he's made it 5. That's his way of explaining it. And he gives examples of 4. He says here uridu an tuhsina ilayya, I wish or I intend, I would like that you be good to me. Wa ana lan adribaka, and I will never hit you. Wa aslamtu kay adkhul al jannata wa idhan yaghfir Allahu laka. So in all of these, an causes the following mudari to be mansoob. This is also mansoob. Kay, I have brought Islam so I may enter Jannah. Adkhula becomes mansoob, and idhan, it means what? Then in that case, wa idhan yaghfir Allahu laka. In that case, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive you. And this is very simple, very basic. The whole issue comes about here with an al-muqaddara, where an is muqaddara, and understanding this an al-muqaddara. Yes, has every... Can you hear me again? It got cut out in between 1 minute. Let me share the screen again. Okay. Yes, no questions regarding this, right? This is very basic. Everybody understand this? G. Yeah, even. Yeah, same one. وَإِذًا لَا يُؤْتُونَ النَّاسَ نَقِيرًا, etc. Those are the same type. Moving on, he says, وَتُقَدَّرُ أَنْ فِي سَبْعَةِ مَوَاضِعَ. An becomes muqaddar in 7 different places. Now, different books of Nahw explain this an muqaddara in different ways. So we'll stick to the way he's explained it. He says here there are 7 ways or 7 places, 7 scenarios where an is muqaddara, is hidden. The first is after hatta. So after hatta, we have seen that the Arabs, they make the fi'l mudari mansoob. So one way of saying it is hatta is a harfun nasib, but they don't do that. They say an is muqaddara. So for example, aslamtu hatta adkhul al jannah. So hatta, it can be 2 common ways. It can be actually all 3 ways. The word after it the verb after it can be marfu', the word after it can be majroor, and the word after it can also be mansoob. But usually it's 2 ways. Hatta can be a harfun jar if it is preceded, if it's followed by an ism. Hatta matla'il fajri. And it can also be a harfun nasib if it's followed by a fi'l mudari. Or you can say the an is muqaddar after it, and the an is doing the amal. So I have brought Islam so that I can enter Jannah. Understood the first one? So after hatta, the an is muqaddara, and this an muqaddara causes the fi'l mudari after it to be in the mansoob state. Understood? An example of this, لَن تَنَالُوا الْبِرَّ حَتَّى تُنْفِقُوا مِمَّا تُحِبُّونَ. So hatta is a nasib, therefore the noon al-i'rab drops, and the tunfiqu is in the mansoob state. Understood? The next is lam kai. Lam kai, lam ta'lil basically. Okay, wa lam kai is also called lam, lamu ta'lil, lamu ta'lil, lam of reason. Okay, so for example, qama zaydun liyadhhaba. Okay, I don't know what's happening in the harakat here. Qama zaydun liyadhhaba. So Zayd has stood so he can go. So what we say here is is really li an. Li an. Ali an yadhhaba. لأن يذهب, so he may go. So Zayd has stood so that he may go. So لأن يذهب, you can't say it that way, but usually removed. The an is muqaddar and the lam does amal, or the an does amal after the lam kay. And many examples in the Quran are very common. ليكون للناس نذيرا, ليكون للناس ليكون للعالمين نذيرا. So lam comes before the fi'l mudari and an is muqaddar after it. Then we have lamul jahad. Most books refer to this as lamul juhud. He's called it lamul jahad. It's the same thing. It's an emphatic negative, and we've done the meaning of this in ilm al-ma'ani slightly. And that's to do with balagha. What he's saying here, what is lamul juhud? Is if you have ma kana manfiya, whether it's ma kana, la yakunu, lam yakun, any form of kana in its manfi form, negative form. You have its ism, then the khabar has lam. Some say this is lam harfun jar zaid, some say it's muta'alliq. This is ikhtilaf in the i'rab. Then you have lam, and after this lam, an is muqaddara. And it's because of this, yu'adhiba. Ba has a fatha because it's in the mansoob state. So lamul juhud is a lam which comes on the khabar of ma kana, lam yakun, or any form of kana in its manfi form. So ma kana Allahu liyu'adhibahum. So wa ma kana Allahu liyu'adhibahum. So in this scenario, because of ma kana manfiya, therefore the khabar of this has a lam, and the lam will have an muqaddara after it, causing the following verb to be in the mansoob state. Okay? Lam yakunillahu liyaghfira lahum, with a fatha, because it's mansoob. Understood? Any questions so far? So the first is hatta. Second is lam of kai, also known as lam of ta'lil, lam of reason. It's harfun jar basically. Okay? And you call it lam of kai because kai directly gives the nasab. So this is a lam like kai, which has a nasab element to it. Now, if you have a fa after a talab or a nafi. So in summary, if you have a nafyun or a talab, okay? And after that you have a fa. Then after this fa is an muqaddara. And talab includes any type of seeking, whether it's amar, nahi, istifam, tamanni, taraji, tahdid. But he doesn't mention it as such. He doesn't make it short and brief. He just says, he gives the jawabul amar or etc. But simply is, if you have a talab or a nafi, and after that nafi and after that talab, if there's a fa, we will say after the fa is al-muqaddara, which makes the following verb mansoob. For example, so you have jawabul amr. I can't find a jawabul amr example in the Quran with the fa. But for example, when nahi. So if you have a fa which occurs, al-fa al-waqi'ah, a fa which occurs in the nahi or the jawabul amr. So for example, iftara yaftari iftira'an, to fabricate lies. So la taftaru ala Allahi kadhiba. So now this is a nahyun. Correct? Now after this nahyun, we have al-fa al-waqi'a fi jawabin nahyi. Therefore, فَيُسْحِتَكُمْ بِعَذَابٍ. So now ashata yushitu, but now becomes mansoob because it comes after the fa, which comes in the jawab or after in nahi. So do not ascribe or do not fabricate lies against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, lest he bring a punishment unto you. Similarly, if you have istifham, it's istifham, after the istifham there's a fa. The same thing will happen. Man dhal ladhi yuqridu Allah qardan hasana. This is the question. Who is it that will give Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a loan, i.e. spend in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Then you have a fa which occurs in the jawab of the istifham. Therefore after this you have a fa'il mudari is mansoob because we assume here there's an muqaddara. فَيُضَاعِفَ. So ضَاعَفَ يُضَاعِفُ. With a dhamma it should have been originally, but it becomes فَيُضَاعِفَ لَهُ أَضْعَافًا كَثِيرًا. Then we have same thing, nafi. If you have a negative particle, negative statement, and it's followed by a fa, same thing happens. لا يقضى عليهم. فعل مضارع is neither amr, neither istifham, neither nahi, but it's a fa'il mudari, but it's a negative mudari. So it's nafi. So then, لا يقضى عليهم فيموتوا. It is not destined for them, so they will not die. So again, the يموتون, noon is dropped off to show the nasab state. So you have a negative sentence, nafi. So because of this, the fa'il mudari after it is assumed to have a an muqaddara after the, between the fi'l mudari and the fa is al-muqaddara, making it mansoob. Kullukum ma'i, everybody with me, everybody understanding, tafhamoon?
Yeah, you happy with that? Okay.
Hal min su'al? The next example is again at-talab, at-tamanni. Same thing will happen. You have a tamanni followed by a fa, then a mudari mansoob, because we assume between the mudari and the fa there is al-muqaddara. Ya laytani kuntu ma'ahum, I wish I was with them. So this is a tamanni, it's a form of talab. Then you have the fa, because of the fa then you put in here an. Al-muqaddara makes the afuza mansoob. Ya laytani kuntu ma'ahum fa afuza fawzan azima. And another one is ard. Now ard means what? Like a request. You get requests, and so you have amr is like a command, ard is a request, tahdid is also a type of talab, but more harsh and more we'll do this later on, but it's different levels of request. So again, it's a talab. So he has a list, but I can't remember which, but I think in Hisham he says a talab, ba'd al-talab, aw nafi, that's easier. So then we say talab, include, this is talab, 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 and talab. And then this is negative. So talab or nafi, this is more comprehensive, but it spells out everything. So tahdid is probably an example of tahdid as opposed to ard. لولا أخرتني إلى أجل قريب. Or why do you not give me more time, give me respite? It's a bit of respite. فأصدق instead of أصدقوا. فأصدق. Correct? Yes? Okay. Now these are the examples he has in his book. So I brought the Quran example so it sticks in your mind better. But now we have the examples he's mentioned before. So nahu aslim fataslama. So this is amar, jawabul amar, fa al-muqaddara. La ta'si is nahi, fa. So you have al-muqaddara, this becomes mansoob. Same thing, wahal ta'allam. Have you not learned? Fatanjua. Do you not learn, do you not acquire knowledge? Fatanjua. So you become successful. وَمَا تَزُورُنَا. You do not visit us. فَنُكْرِمَكَ. So we can honor you. So مَا تَزُورُنَا is a negative. The fa after it. You do not visit us so that we can honor you. We can be kind to you. So nukrimaka, again fa here. And is muqaddara. This becomes mansoob. وَلَيْتَ لِي مَالًا. I wish I had money. This is a tamanni. So after tamanni there's a fa. So al-muqaddara here, making this into a mansoob state. أَلَا تَنْزِلُوا. Why do you not come to us? This is an ard, like a request. Why do you not come and visit us? Stay by us. فَتُصِيبَ. So we can give you goodness. We can honor you, or give you things, give you gifts, and bestow our favors upon you.
How would I say?
You understand? Everybody following? So the an, zahira, is very obvious. When you see an, you know after it straight away there's mansoob state. But the issue here is the an muqaddara. So a simple rule is an is muqaddar. One place is after hatta, one is after lamul kai, one is after lamul juhud. And here is if you have a fa after a talab or a nafi, then you will also have a an muqaddara after this fa, making or deeming the word after it to be, rendering the word after it to be into the mansoob state. Fahimtum? Which two? The tamanni and arf? What's the difference between which two? Tamanni is something which is unlikely to occur, very unlikely or improbable to occur. And arz is like a request, which is something which can be easily met. Okay? So tamanni is usually yastahil, aqlan or adatan. It's usually impossible, improbable. And arz is like a request. Why do you not speak slowly so we can understand? So it's a request, it can be done.
If you refer to it, if I wanted to say
لولا أخرتني, again, it's not arz. Some say it's a tahdid, some say it's a arz, some say it's a dua, some say it's a tamanni. It's a talab. So whatever you categorize it as, some have said lawla here is a harf, is a lawla is for tamanni. It's not actually a request, it's a tamanni. Okay? The whole point is it's a talab. So when it's a talab, the amal of nasab will come after it. Now similarly, he's saying here that the same places we have, which is either talab or nafi. If you have talab or nafi, and talab includes then amar, nahi, istifham, the whole lot, istifham, tamanni, arth. Yes? If you have any of these or a nafi, and there's a waw, there's not a fa, there's a waw instead of a fa. Even after this waw, you have al-muqaddara. And he gave example, Now aslim wa taslam. So instead of aslim fataslama, you can also have aslim wa taslama. So I'll give you a few examples here where there's wow instead. So for example, so you following? So previous example was he mentioned fa. So the rule applies to wa or fa, wow or fa. So if you got a talab or a nafi, a talab or a nafi, you have a talab or a nafi. What you can do then is you can make this the verb after al-mansub because of al-muqaddara. So the examples of fa is more common. Here's one example of wow. لا تنهى عن خلق وتأتي مثله. Do not prohibit, do not stop people from a character or some behavior. وتأتي مثله. So this is wow here, look. Yes? Ibn Hisham mentioned it slightly differently, but we can skip it as how he's mentioned it here. Do not prohibit, do not stop a characteristic once you yourself carry out. عار عليك إذا فعلت عظيم أي عار عظيم أي ذلك عار عظيم عليك إذا فعلت. When you do such a thing, this will be very, very great dishonor and a disgrace to you, that you're telling people don't do something and you're acting hypocritically. So لا تنهى عن خلق, لا تنهى is in nahi, which is also a talab. After the talab you have a wow. You have the wow, therefore we will say there's an al-muqaddara here, rendering this into the mansub state. Understood? Another example with wow. Ya laytana nuraddu. So ya laytana nuraddu. We wish we would be returned, we could be sent back into the dunya. Wala nukadhiba bi ayati rabbina. So now because of the wow, we say an is muqaddara here, rendering this mansub. And it's atf on this, and it's also mansub. Wa nakuna min al-mu'minin. A talab, a tamanni. A tamanni followed by a fa or a wow. So if you have any of the talab or the nafi followed by a amar, so if you have a talab or a nafi, and talab means amar, nahi, istifham, tamanni, arad, or a nafi, and it's followed by a fa or a wow, and then it has a mudari between that fa and wow and the mudari, the al-muqaddara, rendering that mudari into the mansub state. Understood? Yes? Good? The last thing, last two we're saying here is ba'da aw. Sometimes you have the word aw, and it means unless. Ila an, until, or illa an, unless. G, go ahead.
So inshallah we come in at the state, I'll be doing it inshallah. Today is Wednesday, maybe Friday, Thursday, I'm not too sure.
There's no specific name for it. I think in here, in Nafi and Talab, Ibn Hisham is called it Waw al-Ma'iyya. But I think he doesn't mention any specific name for it here. In here, it's in Waw Talab, Waw Ma'iyya. Waw Ma'iyya. Because La Tanha an Khuluqin Ma'a Ityani Mithlihi. It's in the meaning of like Maf'ul Ma'ahu. Yeah. Okay. Wa ba'da aw. After aw. After aw. Provided the waw is in the meaning of until or unless. For example, لأحبسنك. So here, لأحبسنك, I will imprison you. أو تؤتيني حقي. Until or unless you give me my right. So I will have you imprisoned. And this aw means or, well, literally translated as or, but here it is translated as إلى أن تؤتيني, until you give me my right. Or إلا أن تؤتيني, unless you give me what is my due. So if you have an aw in the meaning of illa an or ila an, then the same thing will happen. After this aw, you will have a an muqaddara, making the fi'l mudari after it mansoob. Understood? Yes? Okay. And the last scenario he's mentioned, wa wawil adfi. If you have a wawul adf, now remember, as I told you many times before, I think of the ma'tuf alayhi ma'tuf as a seesaw, they have to balance. So if you have a fa'il this side, you also have the fa'il this side. If you have an ism this side, you need to have an ism this side. If you have a fa'il this side as an ism, then you have to make it in a ta'wil. Or if you got a fa'il on one side, you have to balance it off. So if we have an example like this, أعجبني قيامك وتخرج. أعجبني قيامك وتخرج. So you're standing. So قيامك, you're standing, impressed me or it shocked me. وتخرج. Now here, the ma'tuf عليك قيامك is a fa'il. An ism, masdar. And تخرج is a fa'il. So you can't have a seesaw, you can't have fa'il here an ism here. So what we do here, we add an before the fa'il, or what we say in Arab, بِتَأْوِيلِ مَصْدَرٍ. This becomes a masdar, or an ism mu'awwal.
In terms of translation,
Now it becomes an ism. So an takhruja is an ism. The whole thing. It's a ta'wil al-masdar, it's an ism. So when we have, so after a waw of atf, if the ma'tuf is an ism sarih, and after the waw you have a fa'il mudari. Another example. Okay. أحب القراءة. I like to read. وأشتري الكتب. And sometimes I just buy it for the sake of buying it. It just gives me a separate buzz. وأشتري الكتب. What do we have here? Al-qira'a is ismun sarihun. It's a proper noun, clear noun. After the waw, we have wawul atf. But after the wawul atf, we have what? We have a fa'il mudari. So you can't have an ism sarih ma'tuf alayh and a fa'il mudari as a ma'tuf. So then to allow this, we say here an is muqaddara, rendering this whole phrase after it into an ismun mu'awwal. This is not ismun mu'awwal. So ismun mu'awwal can have an atf and an ismun sarih. So أحب القراءة وأحب اشتراء الكتب. Now it balances off. Do you understand? Okay, let me give you one example in the Quran and then let's see what's happening here. Okay? In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا كَانَ لِبَشَرٍ أَن يُكَلِّمَهُ اللَّهِ. It is not befitting of a human being that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks to him. So wahyan, except wahyan. So wahyan, you can say here, this is hal, or you can say hal or maf'ul mutlaq. So you say wahyan, this is ma'tuf alayh. What kind of noun is it? Ism sarih or ism fa'il or harf? Wahyan. It's a masdar, so it's ism. Correct? Then we have aw is harf atf. Aw min wara'i hijab, aw. Now after this aw, so this is not waw, but it's the same concept. It's a wawul atf. He said wawul atf, but it's any kind of atf. Now yursila, what's yursila? Ism or fa'il? Fa'il. Now can you have a fa'il atf and then ism? No. So what do you have to do now? You have to make this ismun mu'awwalun. You have to make this what? Into an? You have to make this into an ismun. Why is it not working? Ismun mu'awwalun. And how do you make it ismun mu'awwal? By saying an is muqaddara here. And because an is muqaddara, you have yursila rasula. So you have an ismun sarih as a ma'tuf alay. And after the harful atf, whether it's waw or whether it's aw or any other one, then you have to make it into an masdar, you have to make it mahzuf, so that we can say the atf balances off. Understood? Yes? So inshallah we'll continue tomorrow. We'll summarize it and we'll go through a few more rules inshallah. Okay, and any questions I'll answer it tomorrow inshallah, okay? Subhanallah wa bihamdi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika, wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta wa nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem. So to quickly recap what we mentioned yesterday or the day before, we have nawasib, an, lan, kay, idan. And then we say an can be of different types. We have an zahira, where you can actually see it in the text, or an muqaddara, where the an is hidden. Where is the an hidden? It can be hidden after hatta. So hatta is a particle. After hatta we have a hidden an, and that an which is muqaddara, that renders the fa'il mudari after it to be the mansoob state. Then we have lamu kay, it's with a harfun jar, but because it comes before a fa'il mudari and the an is muqaddar after it, they call it lamu kay. It's a normal harfun illa, lam harfun jar, and an is muqaddara after it. Similarly, lamul juhud, also known as lamul jahdi, which is when you have ma kana or lam yakun, then you have the ism after it, followed by the khabar with a lam before it. This creates emphasis, lamul jahdi, lamul juhud, and after this lam, an is also muqaddara here, and that does the amal, rendering the verb after it to be into the mansoob state. If you have a fa or a waw after amr, nahyun, istifham, or tamannin or arad, and all of these are known as talab. So if you have a talab or a nafi, yes, and a nafi and talab is followed by a fa or a waw, followed by a mudari. After that fa and after that waw, we will have a an muqaddara making the mudari mansoob. And if you have aw, in the meaning of ila'an or illa'an, unless or until, or you have a wawul atf, and the ma'tuf alayh is an ismun sarih, and after the waw, or after the harful atf, there's a ma'tuf, and that's made of fa'il mudari. So you can't have a ma'tuf alayh as an ism, and a ma'tuf as a fa'il, so you have to make that fa'il mudari ismun mu'awwal, by adding an masdariyah. That's why we say an masdariyah wa ma ba'daha bi ta'wili mufradin. It becomes a ism in ta'wil. So this was a summary of the ahrufun nasab. And then we said here that after lam kay, usually the an is muqaddara, it is not mentioned, but you can bring the an if you want to. You can make the an zahira. So aslamtu li an adkhul al jannah. So you can say aslamtu li adkhul al jannah and have the an muqaddara, and it's also possible to have aslamtu li adkhul al jannah. This is lamu ta'lil. Okay. If you have wawul atf, so for example here, a'jabani qiyamuka, you have a choice here. You can say wa an takhruja wa takhruja. Both of them are permissible. If you have it muqaddar, then the an is mahdhuf, and that makes the fa'il mudari mansoob. And if you bring it zahiran, then it's also there. However, if you have lam kay, and lam kay is followed by la nafiya, you have to bring the an, because li alla ya'lama, you can't say it's really alla ya'lama is really lam harfun jar, an nasiba, and la nafiya. So li alla. If you don't bring the an, then you end up with lila, and that you can see the pronunciation, that is just a bit weird. So you can't say lila ya'lama. So in this case scenario, you must bring the an muqaddara, and then if idgham is written as li alla. So you can't pronounce the noon, but it is there. Okay? Now, what he's saying here, the next rule he's mentioning is that know that the an which occurs after ilm, meaning any verb which shows the meaning of ilm, whether it's alima ya'lamu in its forms, tabayyana and any of its forms, okay? Tabayyana, so alima and any of its mushtaqat, or tabayyana, or any other word which has the meaning of yaqeen and ilm. So ilm, or you can translate that as any verb of ilm, of fi'lul yaqeen. If there's a verb which shows yaqeen, the verb shows yaqeen, then after it, you may have an an, but this an will not be a nasiba of the mudari. Okay? Innama hiya al-mukhaffafa min al-muthaqqala. We would say, so the rule is, if you have a fa'il of dhan, so the fa'il is either going to be, okay, let's go to the next slide first. Let me explain the next slide first to you. We're saying here, if we have a verb, and the verb shows the meaning of ilm, what does it show? The meaning of ilm. Like alima, tabayyana. Then after it, you will have anna, al-mushaddada. So ya'lamuna annahum, wa'lamu anna Allah. So after alima, you have anna. Okay? If you have dhanna, and dhanna means any verb which doesn't show yaqeen, it shows think. Okay? Then you can have this in two ways. You can have an mukhaffafa. So the alima will also have an mukhaffafa. So the anna can become an mukhaffafa. So it's really anna, but you remove the shadda and you pronounce it as an. So it's not a masdar, harfu masdar, but it is an mukhaffafa. Okay? And with dhanna, you can also have it as an nasiba after it. The difference being between an mukhaffafa and an nasiba is that the an mukhaffafa, the anna and an mukhaffafa, so anna will have an ism marfu after it, ismun marfu', and the khabar will mansoob. And an mukhaffafa, the ism is mahdhuf, and it's what? Dhamiru sha'an. Mahdhuf and it's dhamiru sha'an. So therefore, you can't see any mansoob after it. Okay? And nasiba, which comes after dhanna, or any other verb which is not ilm and dhan, you have an nasiba. So for example, kariha, ya arada. So you have a verb of arada. So now you have arada an yaf'ala. So the yaf'ala, arada an yaf'ala. He intended to do something. Now here, arada an yaf'ala. This yaf'ala is a ma'mud directly of an. So arada an yaf'ala. This directly becomes the mansoob of this an. And if you have an mukhaffafa, or if you have, for example, here, wa'lamu anna Allah وَأَعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ, this for example, قَدِيرٌ, this for example, make it easy. So then this is the mansoob of anna, ism of anna, and this is the khabar of anna. And if we have an mukhaffafa, then the ism is mahzoof. So you have, for example, the example we have in the Quran is alima an sayakunu minkum marda. So what we say here now, the ism is mahzoof. It's a zamiru shan without a marji. It's zamir, it's mahzoof, zamir rushan. That's what it becomes. So they both, some say mukhaffafa is is a masdar or not, it's ikhtilaf. But this is what the main difference comes about in the amal. Anna does amal on the ism, zahir, and mukhaffafa does amal on the ism, muqaddar, hidden. And if it's an-nasiba, then you can have it as, it does amal on the verb directly. Are you following? So this recording didn't get recorded yesterday, that's why I'm going a bit faster. So anybody watching the videos, if you're going a bit faster, it's because this has already been done, we're just recapping it. Okay? So if you go back to the text, what do we have? So he's saying here that if you have, for example, alima an sayakunu minkum marda. Somebody might think, well, we have alima an sayakunu. So why is it sayakunu? So he's saying here because after a verb with alima, which shows the meaning of yaqeen, you always have anna. Okay? So if it's anna, it's not anna. So it's not an-nasiba. It's an-mukhaffafa. So it's really an. The zamiru sha'an is here. The zamiru sha'an is mahdhoof. And then the khabar is from sayakunu. And this an does not do amal on the sayakunu. The amal an is doing the amal on the zamir sha'an, which is mahdhoof. So it is not, that's why it's not sayakuna. Because an is not a nasiba which does amal on that. Why? Because after alima, you don't get a nasiba. You get an muthaqqala, alima anna, or alima an, and that an is originally anna. So the an is not nasiba. That's why it's not doing amal on sayakunu. Understood? إنما هي المخففة من المثقلة. So alima an was really originally alima anna, and then some kind of ism is mahdhoof, alima annahu sayakunu minkum marda. Understood? Yes? So for example, alimtu an sayaqumu. I have come to know that he is going to stand. So again, alima, this an was supposed to be anna, then you have the who zamir shan is mahdhoof, that becomes the ism, and that's why an doesn't do amal on that. An is doing amal on its zamir here, making that marfu, which is mahdhoof, and then this jumla becomes a khabar. Correct?
And does not take the complete number of cubits. You don't know how much it is?
Yes.
Yeah.
I will discuss that. I've got a slide coming up. We'll discuss it there, inshallah. Okay. وَأَنْ الْوَاقِعَ The an which occurs after dhan. The an which occurs after dhan. جَازَ فِيهِ الْوَجْهَانِ. So we mentioned in the slide I explained, if it's il, you have to have anna. If it's dhan, then you have two possibilities. What can you do? جَازَ فِيهِ الْوَجْهَانِ. You can have nasab biha. You can say, well, it's an-nasiba, or you can say it is an-mukhaffafa. So for example, dhanantu an sayaqumu, you can read this two ways. You can read it an sayaquma or an sayaqumu. So let's say for example here, we have sayaqumu. So in this scenario, an is mukhaffafa, no amal. This is mukhaffafa min al-muthaqqalati. And if it's an sayaquma, that means that an is nasiba, not mukhaffafa. So it's 2 points, because dhanna, meaning of dhan, not unsure. So now you can have two ways. You can say dhanantu an sayaquma or dhanantu an sayaqumu. Understood? Following? And that's why hasibu alla takunu, because hasiba is in the meaning of dhan, thought, not certainty. So that's why the different qira'ah. Alla takuna, ya alla takunu. You can say both. Well, our qira'ah is an takuna, because we say an is nasiba. Yes, and this is a rajih. But you can also say alla takunu and make an mukhaffafatun min al-muthaqqalati. Understood? Yes. Yes. So that's coming up right here. So for example now, yes. So let me discuss that first. So when we say dhanna, we don't mean the word dhan, we mean the meaning of dhan. So for example in Surah Kahf, ma adhunnu an tabida hadhihi abada. So now he says, I think, dhanna. So this means think, uncertainty. This is my belief, not a certainty, but I think this will never ever perish. So because this is in the meaning of think, uncertainty, this an becomes nasiba. Correct? Yes? Correct? And in theory, you could say في غير القرآن أن تبيدوا, because when it's the meaning of dhan, يجوز فيه الوجهان. Yes? Okay? However, if you have the actual word of dhanna, and the actual word of dhanna in the Quran, it comes in the meaning of yaqeen, to be sure of something. So if you have the word dhanna in the meaning of yaqeen, then that's in the meaning of ilm. So then that will have what after it? Anna. Yes, that would have anna. So yadhunnuna has anna after it, because yadhunnuna is in the meaning of ya'lamoon, ilm. So even though the word dhanna, and why this happens, there's a tafsiri issue, you can discuss that there. So yadhunnuna is in the meaning of ya'lamoon. And because it's in the meaning of ilm, ilm has our after it, anna. So you have here annahum, not an. And because this is in the meaning of dhan, you have an. Correct? Understood? Okay. Now, one other point here now is mentioned, this is from Qatrun Nada, that if you have alima, okay, you have alima, ilm, and you change the anna to an, what do? You have fa'lul ilm, and after fa'lul ilm, you make the fa'lul ilm, after that you make the an after it mukhaffafa from musaqqala. Then you have to have one of these four. So for example, I have alima. What is that? A fa'al dhan or fa'al yaqeen? Fa'al yaqeen. So this an has to be what? Nasiba or mukhaffafa? Mukhaffafa. So now you must have one of these particles. Harfu tanfis, meaning sin or sawfa. Harfu nafyin, qad or lan. Allah, sorry. So for example, alima an sayakunu. So now alima, fa'lul ilm, an is mukhaffafa min al-muthaqqala. So now you have seen sayakunu minkum marda. Afala yarawna. Some have translated it, say that this yarawna is in the meaning of ala ya'lamu, do they not know? So because this is in the meaning of ilm. Afala yarawna, do they not know? Because see is one of the strongest hawas to get ilm. One of the asbabul ilm, the strongest hassa and senses which you acquire knowledge is to see. So yarawna, even it comes in many times alam tara. So they didn't see, but alam ta'lamu. So alam tara kayfa. Okay? So alam yaraw means alam ta'lamu, alam ya'lamu. So this is ilm, this an la. But because an is mukhaffafa, it must now has harf nafin after it. There's no amal on this. Similarly, وَنَعْلَمَ أَنْ قَدْ صَدَقْتَنَا. Obviously this is fa'il madhi, so you can't do amal anyways, but you still have qad, comes after an. So an is mukhaffafa min al-muthaqqala, it comes after fa'ilul ilm, therefore we have to bring one of these particles, and here you have the particle qad. You can also have law. أَفَلَمْ يَيْأَسْ. Yay'as, again this is tafsir, it means yay'as, to lose hope. What does it mean? Have you not come to know? And after you know, then you will say, well, there's no point, it's not going to work. So yay'as means to lose hope, but lose hope after having knowledge. So the Mufassirun have said that yay'as is also in the meaning of ilm. So alladhina amanu is a fa'il, well, alladhina is a fa'il and amanu is a sila. So have these people, has the believers not lost hope? Meaning they do not know and consequently lost hope. An mukhaffafa min al-muthaqqala, law comes between that, and yasha'ullah is no amal. It is an mukhaffafa min al-muthaqqala. So therefore, there's no amal on that. So in summary of this slide is, if you have alima, a fa'lul ilm, and it's not followed by anna, rather it is followed by an al-mukhaffafa min al-muthaqqala anna, then after the an, you must have a harfu tanfis, a harfu nafi, a harfu qad or law. For example, alima an sayakunu, harfu nafin, afala yarawna alla yarji', an qad sadaqtana, allaw yasha'ullah. Understood? Yes, this is what you're asking me, G. Sin or sawfa. Sin or sawfa is called harfu tanfis. Okay. Has that been clarified? Is it clear? Any questions? Okay. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك ونشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت ونستغفرك ونتوب إليك.